Okay, so the question is, what does reconciliation look like? So it is a matter of a fact that things happened in the past that were terrible, atrocities, genocides. There were, atrocities committed against certain people here in Canada. Those people were or what we call American Indians today, maybe indigenous or First Nations. I mean, there's different ways of referring to this, to these people anyways. And so the question is, okay, this stuff happened and it's not cool that it happened, but it did. And, we can't change that, but we can do something about it. In present time right now, we have the ability to take some kind of a step in the direction of, you can't make up for what happened. It's impossible, but you can do something to, in some way, you can't make it better, but you can do something as a gesture of recognizing that what took place was wrong, and that we're all living a life here right now that in many ways it came about because that happened. I mean, these people had a lot taken from them, and it's pretty sad, especially if you look into this stuff, like watch the movie Bury My Heart at Broken Knee, or the same thing happened in the States. I mean, the same thing happened all over the world, but just the States. The movie Thunderheart with Val Kilmer, it's beautiful. This happened to everybody everywhere. It happened to, say, like, I'm Indonesian. It happened to people in Indonesia. It happened to people in Latin America, the Mayans and Aztecs and all that kind of stuff, when the Spaniards and the English and the French came over. It happened even amongst white people, or Caucasians to their own people, where lower, I don't want to say lower class, but just like for what it's worth, where rich aristocratic people made the general population like serfs, like slaves, essentially, really took advantage of them and just like ruled with an iron fist, and it was horrible, disgusting. And so anyways, but I mean, so here in Canada, the question is, for myself, what do you do about it? And it's funny because some people that I know, you mention this and they'll say things like, there's another movie called Bones of Crows. If you want to see a little something about the residential schools that took place here, and this is the church involved. And, right now it was like, that was in recent times, they found these mass graves of children, and some people lost it and burned down churches and stuff like that, because it, just like in the States, it's like when African American people were just being discriminated against, and nothing was being done about it, and then they rioted, right? Sometimes it takes people who don't know what to do other than to lash out in that way, but it's like that's what it took. So it's like you can't be like, oh well, violence isn't the answer. It's like, well, then what is, right? And the thing is, you look at what happened in the States, they made progress as a result of people just being outraged, to be like, okay, this is enough. We cannot keep living like this. And so the question is, here in Canada, what do we do? Some people be like, oh, well, I've heard people say, oh, well, the residential schools weren't that bad. I knew somebody that went to them, and it's like, I'm sure there were different experiences. Just like when I went to school, it was bad. When some people went to school, it wasn't bad. But it's just like, you ever heard this phrase, no child left behind, or no man left? It's like no person left behind. And anyways, so it's like it matters just because some people didn't like suffer. If some people are, that's a problem. And so the point is that what do you do? There's people that are like, oh, you can't just give them a bunch of money and they're just gonna spend it on this. They're just gonna, stereotypes. Oh, they're gonna spend it on booze or like drugs, or like, they're gonna buy a car. Just like they're just gonna waste it all. And it's just like, it's challenging to know what to say when somebody has this like attitude where it's just like, we don't know them anything. What about my children? What about me? Why does anybody anything, right? And it's just like, just making it all about themselves, and not having any compassion, or certainly not looking into what happened and what not doing the research. And so the question is, so what do you do about it, right? How do we move forward as a people? Because clearly our government is like retarded, meaning it's like slowed down, it is held back, it is not functioning properly, because I suppose there's individuals or groups of individuals that have interests, and there's ego involved. It's like, why can't you just apologize and like come up with a plan, like officially apologize for everything that happened? I don't know if anyone ever has done that. If they have, correct me if I'm wrong, right? But anyways, so screw the government for what it's worth. You cannot rely on them. They have proven time and time again that they are an unreliable source for pretty much for most things, for at least for addressing the most important issues. And so the question is, what do we do about this as a people? Because I get the sense that for like, positive change to happen, a lot of the time, because of how crooked and corrupt the government is, certain things need to take place on a grassroots level, from the ground up. And so how, right? Because what does any one of us do? How do we do anything? How do you even know what to say? What if like, there was an American Indian person, First Nations Native person in the room? Like, how could you even talk about this? Could you, because it brings up, it's like talking about like animals in front of me. Whereas like as a person who, no, I guess it's different because that's their people, but it's like, to me, animals are my people. But anyways, it's like, how do you even begin to approach this, right? And so the reason I'm making this video is because I was, I'm stepping into the shoes of a yoga teacher now, and I am aware that in an amount of time I will have a yoga studio. And the thought came to me that because I recall I sometimes am emailing between people, and I get this sometimes at the, depending on the institution or whatever, you get this thing, and it's like on the bottom of the email it says, we humbly acknowledge that we are operating on the territorial grounds of like the Stolo people, which is like the people of the river, and and in acknowledging this, we make one very tiny step towards and some kind of an act of reconciliation, right? And so that we hear this more and more. You see it outside of businesses who are willing to recognize that this is something that needs to be addressed. And I had somebody on a YouTube comment, I talked about reconciliation, and they said, oh, reconciliation, like, what are you talking about? And it's just like, it's like, why do we need to do anything? It's like, man, like, if you royally screw me over, if you treat me very poorly, if you kill my friends and family, I'm not gonna just forget about it. It takes more than just sweeping it under the rug and like just just getting rid of it and moving on. It takes more than that to move on, especially with what happened to them, because they had so much taken from them. They had their children taken from them and killed, right? They lost a lot, right? So it's like, if just on a personal level, if you do that to somebody, if you really wrong somebody, it's not that you need to be punished per se, but you need to make up for it in some way, which is known as penance. You need to do something. There needs to be an act, which is like saying, and it's not just the words are hollow if they're not accompanied by some form of action which demonstrates that there is sincerity behind the words. Sorry. And so to me, what this thought that came into my mind was that when I open a yoga studio, like, services will be free to First Nations people. Yeah. I might even go beyond that, where services, many services would be free to basically anybody who's struggling, because why would spiritual guidance, why would holistic health and healing be like only available to people who have money, or who are, who have been exposed to that kind of stuff, who, then it makes sense to them to be involved in it. But if there was, making something free and promoting it as that for certain people, it's like, if you have money, you should pay. If you have a lot of money, you should pay more. Why not? To make up for the people who don't have anything, and then they can have it for free. Like, say, it's like, if you're addicted to drugs, how about next time, instead of picking up the joint, come to class, come and meditate, come and read. We have a library. Come and have a cup of tea, come and have a conversation, come and dance, shake it out, whatever. But like, don't numb yourself, don't abscond, don't hide away from life. Come and be a part of something, that is supportive and and healthy. yeah, and so that's what I think. That's how I feel, anyways. Just that to help reconcile this, it's like if you have a business, offer services, to people, and at the same time, don't be taken advantage of. If people have the money, it doesn't make sense, because it does cost it. Like, everybody's time is valuable. I'm not saying be taken advantage of, especially if the resources, I'm not saying, build somebody a house for free. I mean, it's like, where's the money and the labor and all that kind of stuff come from? Everybody's time is valuable, right? But I mean, it is important to, for me, teaching yoga costs nothing. I literally stretch. I would be doing it anyways. I meditate for free. I give spiritual discourse for free. It costs nothing. My services are, I live in service to other people. So it's like, it is my pleasure to be of service to anybody who needs it. Right? So, yeah, so I'm saying, don't, this isn't saying sell yourself short. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying, but it's like, and always practice discernment. If you think somebody is taking advantage of a situation, if they can afford your services, or maybe offer a discounted service, if not 100% free. Maybe 100% free for some people and discounted for, just for any, say, like First Nations, so it doesn't discriminate. So it's just like, say, 50% discount for First Nations, and if you can't afford it, 100% free. End of story. No questions asked, right? So, yeah.